Stalkers here. You know, when I'm not laying down some wicked beats, I can usually be found here on my favourite couch, reading a little book you might well know. It's been in the family for generations. My father wrote it. Well, he didn't write it, but other people wrote it for him. Kind of like R.L. Stine. He got all those other people to write the Goosebumps books for him. But unlike R.L. Stine, my dad's real. When I'm not fixing myself a cheese and butter sandwich, I like to settle down and think about what's transpired over the past 2,000 years. A lot has changed. Civilizations have risen and fallen. Species have died out. The climate has fluctuated drastically. Denim jackets have gone out of fashion. But one thing hasn't changed. And you know what that is? The word of the Lord. My dad, or me, God. When I'm not micro-painting, I like to close my eyes and just think about the Ten Commandments and how special and real they are. I like nothing more than to just fall asleep dreaming of the timelessness and astuteness of Leviticus and Deuteronomy. It's amazing to me that a text written thousands of years ago is still so completely, undeniably current and so untainted by the manipulation and deprecation of time, lingual translation, and cultural relevance. It is truly a testament, excuse the pun, to the might of my father that this 2,000-year-old book still holds as true today as it did all those centuries ago, despite the drastic change and inevitable social evolution of the creation that is called man. The commandments and teachings in this ageless masterpiece are still the guidelines to a life of perfection and temporal excellence. Thou shalt not commit murder. Imagine how many people wouldn't have realized that murder was a bad thing to do unless Dad had got it written down into a book. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife. Thank God, excuse the pun, that we had the purity of the Lord Almighty to make us aware that f***ing Mrs. Jones from next door while Mr. Jones was at work was a tad off. This stuff is still gold. Thou shalt not exalt false gods. There's been talk of this lately. There's been rumours of blasphemy and impersonation of myself. Do I weep at night and hold a grudge? Of course not. I turn the other cheek. I mean, it's written in this f***ing book, so I pretty much f***ing have to. They're the rules. An Australian man has recently been persecuted for simply emulating my status and portraying himself as a figure of my spiritual supremacy for occupational gain. A cause for outcry, some have said. But is this exploitation of my historical significance not the same thing carried out by literally millions of priests, bishops, and pastors across the globe? Is the manipulation of my image and teachings not a sin carried out to justify the sinful actions of literally billions of people on this planet? Who gives a f***? When I'm not oiling up an inflatable sex pig and getting ready to give it a good hard crucifixion, I like to think of the hundreds of millions of people who use me, Jesus Christ, as a justification for their unsustainable conservative opinions. I like to compare, as I pour olive oil into the anus of this artificial pleasure aid, the people who have built my millennia-long mission of love and compassion into a campaign for reactionary evil and prejudice, to a guy on a stage in Adelaide who has been condemned as the Antichrist for just wanting to cheer a few people up. At the end of the day, as I stare into the lifeless, plastic eyes of Hamlet the Porker, I think of the hatred of those who cover their misgivings with a weekly dash to their local church. I like to scan through this good book, this manual of life, and try to figure out who in the hell put all of those asterisks next to the phrase, love thy neighbour. Get your shit together, humanity.